Hi guys, welcome to our presentation today. So first of all, my name is Bismi Hazi. You can call me Bismi. So I'm the one who will be introduced to you what is our topic today. Okay, so guys, confirmation theory is a steps or a thing that really needed in certain theory. Okay, as an example, we can see that is it true that an egg push it hard from the top to the bottom, it will not break, and if we break it horizontally, the egg, it will break. So is it a true things or true theory that scientists have research on? A confirmation is steps to confirm the theory. So I would like to take you all to one story that we created for this presentation. So I hope you guys can enjoy and have fun for today's class. And yeah, let's go. Oh, interesting. Wait, what? Raven paradox? What is it? Let me search. Okay, interesting. There's a video. Let's see.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone, my name is Aina Nabila. On the subtopic of confirmation, which is I will explain about the Raven paradox. First of all, what is Raven paradox? The Raven paradox is a paradox arising from the questions of what constitutes evidence for a statement observing object that are neither black nor raven may formally increase the likelihood that all ravens are black, even though intuitively these observations are unrelated. Here is an example of Raven paradox. The Raven paradox state that a green apple can prove that all ravens are black. This illogical conclusion is reached through a logical series of statements which is contained with two. One is proposition and second one is evidence. First proposition is all raven are black, and second proposition is all non-black things are non-raven. For the first evidence is this ravens is black, and the second of evidence is this apple are not black and not raven. Next is proper falsification and hypothetical, which is we have deductive and inductive confirmation. Proper falsification theory is, according to Karl Popper, science is about falsification, not confirmation, in which the series of conjecture and refutations. First, Karl Popper believed that scientific knowledge is provisional, which is the best we can do at the moment. And the second one is Popper is known for his attempt to refute the classical positivists, which is the best we can do and the method that can replacing induction and falsification principle. And the third one is the falsification principle proposed by the Karl Popper is a way of demarcating science from the non-science. It suggests that for a theory to be considered scientific, it must be able to test it and conceivable proven false. For example, when we have hypothesis which is all carrot are orange, and the evidence is they will research for a white carrot and not orange carrot as an evidence. Next is criterion for distinguishing. The first one is deductive reasoning, which is we have 4 steps. The first one we have theory, hypothesis, observation and confirmation. Next is inductive reasoning. We have observation, pattern, hypothesis, and the theory. The last one about under this paradox theory, we have deductive reasoning. The type of deductive reasoning is top-down approach. It takes the premises and reduce them down to the conclusion. For example, all Asian are black hair. Sarah is Asian. Thus, Sarah is a black hair. And the second one is inductive reasoning, which is from the bottom approach. It take the premises and draw probable conclusions based on what this premise provide evidence for. For example, acne appear because of clogged pore. Next, because of clogged pore, so acne will be appear.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Hidayu. So I will explain about the example of Raven paradox. So before I start, let me ask all of you, do you guys believe that actually humans are derived from apes? So that theory is actually proposed by Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin is one of the famous scientists back then in 19th century. So Charles Darwin proposed the theory of evolution, which state that actually new species comes from the pre-existing species over time. The new species is derived from the pre-existing species, which have been through the adaptation of natural selection back then. What is natural selection? So example of natural selection is like the harsh environment, the thunderstorm, or the weather that not necessarily suitable for the pre-existing species. So let me explain a bit about that theory. Imagine back then there are some harsh environment occurred, such as the drought occurred at that time. The pre-existing species cannot handle the drought because they have no water to survive back then. So eventually the pre-existing species will not survive at that drought and eventually become extinct and die. So the one at that on that drought breeding and produce offspring and will continue the new species population until the population is expanded, can go through the harsh environment and survive until now. But there's a twist, because the new species gone through the adaptation will inherit some of the pre-existing species genetics. For example, like the physical appearance, maybe the gene. So what are the relationship between that theory of evolution and human derived from apes? Charles Darwin proposed that actually humans and apes, they have both same characteristic. For example, like physical characteristic, humans look alike the apes. And also Charles Darwin stated that actually humans and apes have like 90% similarities between these two genetics. So that's why Charles Darwin proposed that actually humans are derived from apes. So we can conclude that from the Raven paradox confirmation theory, that the new species comes from the pre-existing species, which will inherit the genes of the pre-existing species to the new species. From that theory, we can brought to the human and apes, which is humans have similar characteristic and also genetic that almost similar to the apes. So that confirm that humans are derived from apes. That's one of the example of Raven paradox.
Just now it just stated that green apple can prove that all ravens are black. Wow, it's quite mind blown, because a green apple and a raven is two different things. Popper said that all the confirmation are based on a falsification, which means they must search for a false things to confirm the things, the real things. Yeah, we know that carrots is all orange. So Popper did an experiment to find a white carrot to prove that, yeah, carrot is orange. That's all. Oops, guys, I just found an interesting game, I think. So I want you guys to try it too. So let's go try it.
Everyone, my name is Nur Husna Aisyah binti Yusri. Our next finding for confirmation theory is Hamper Theory, in which Hamper is a German writer and philosopher. He was a major figure in logical empirism in 20th century. He is well known of his articulation on deductive nomological model of scientific explanation, in which it was considered as a standard model of scientific explanation during 1950 to 1960. As I mentioned earlier, he is well known of his finding on deductive nomological model of scientific explanation. Therefore, I would like to ask you, do you have any idea what is deductive nomological explanation is all about? Okay, deductive nomological model of scientific explanation is a formal view of scientifically answering the question that is regarding for asking a why question, WHY. This DN model possesses scientific explanation as a deductive structure that is where one truth of premises will lead to the truth of its conclusion. Okay, I guess right now in your mind, there are lots of new terms and new words that you need to understand, right? Okay, don't be worried or don't be panicked, because I will give you an example to help you to understand more and make it simple for you to understand. I will take Archimedes theory as example. Okay, audience, have you ever wondered why is your body weight is much more lighter when you are in a swimming pool compared when your body weight when you are outside of the swimming pool? Have you? Yes, it is one of the situations that I believe everyone ever experienced this. This situation is related to Archimedes theory, in which Archimedes theory states that the body immersed in a fluid having an upward force, or known as a buoyancy force, that is equal to the weight of the displaced fluid.
Just now Charles Darwin, and then we got Raven paradox, and now Archimedes, Hamper. Who is it and why is it? Let me search. Oh, there's a video.
The existence of scientific method is actually to make sure that nature hasn't misled us into thinking that we know the truth, but actually we don't know. Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Nasir Zahira, the next speaker for our topic today. There are 4 conditions that can lead us to the logic of confirmation by Hamper. Firstly, we have the entailment condition. Secondly, we have the special consequence condition. And thirdly, we have the special consistency condition. And lastly, we have conserved consequence condition.
This is the further explanation. Firstly, we have entailment condition. If an evidential proposition E logically implies some hypothesis H, then E confirms H. Next, special consequence condition. If an evidential proposition E confirms some hypothesis H, and if H logically implies some hypothesis H prime, then E also confirms H prime. Special consistency condition. If an evidential proposition E confirms some hypothesis H, and if H is not compatible with some hypothesis H prime, then E does not confirm H prime. Lastly, conserved consequence condition. If an evidential proposition E confirms some hypothesis H, and if H is logically implied by some hypothesis H prime, then E also confirms H prime.
So, to relate with Archimedes theory, we use Hamper inductive method that can lead us to confirmation. So from this figure beside me, we can see the step that we can use to build inductive reasoning. The objective of this experiment is to establish the relationship between the loss of weight of a solid and also the weight of water displaced after a solid is fully immersed in water.
This is how we construct Archimedes experiment. Actually, we have two forces. First is the downward forces. It's actually the weight of the block. The downward thrust due to the pressure of the liquid on the upper surface of the block. Second, we have the upward forces. It is from the tension of the spring, which means the measures the apparent of the weight itself. The upward thrust due to the liquid present below the lower surface of the block. This upward thrust is known as buoyancy.
The more of a body is immersed in water, the more of the loss of weight is increased. The weight of a body is least when it is fully immersed in water. This means that in the loss of weight of a body is when a body is fully immersed in water. So, after we carry out the experiment and we already obtained the observation from the previous experiment, it is the time that we want to build the hypothesis and inductive reasoning. So we need three premises. First premise is when a person swims in a pool, the water is displaced out of the pool. So second premise, we try to put a block into a beaker and we see that the water is also displaced out of the water. Third premise, when we place a stone into a bowl, the water is also displaced out of the bowl. So, following to the Archimedes principle, it states that when any object is displaced in water, the weight of the water displaced is equal to the weight of the body or object that is immersed in water. So, according to premise 1, 2, and 3, it all follows the Archimedes principles. Thus, the theory is confirmed.
Now I know why when I'm swimming, I feel a bit lighter maybe. That's why that's called Archimedes principle. Now I know. Guys, there's a poll under this section after this, so I want you guys to vote for your answers, okay? Good luck, guys. In science, there is a bias too. Oh, okay. There's a bias. So, it's interesting. Let's find out.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I am Aina Afrina and I would like to share about confirmation bias. So, what is confirmation bias? A confirmation bias is a type of cognitive bias that involves favoring information that confirms your previously existing beliefs or biases. In psychology and cognitive science, confirmation bias is a tendency to search or interpret information in a way that confirms one's preconceptions, leading to statistical errors. It is psychological tendency of a person to seek evidence in ways those are partial or biased to existing beliefs, expectation, or a hypothesis in mind. Generally, there are three types of confirmation bias. First is biased search for information. This type of confirmation bias explains people's search for evidence in a one-sided way to support their hypothesis or theories. In a simple word, they put efforts alone to search every evidence to support their hypothesis and theories. This commonly happens in experimentation or research. This kind of bias tends to make an experiment have shown that people provide tests or questions that are designed to yield yes if their favorite hypothesis was true, and ignore alternative hypotheses that are likely to give the same result. The second one is biased interpretation. This type of bias explains that people interpret evidence with respect to their existing belief by typically evaluating confirming evidence differently than evidence that challenge their preconceptions. Various experiments have shown that people tend to not change their belief on complex issues even after being provided with research because of the way they interpret the evidence. Alright, to make it easier, this kind of biases almost similar to people who had trust issues as they hardly to believe or confirm about something even they are given with all the evidence as they have their own belief. Lastly, the third one is biased memory. This bias involved in situations where people want to confirm their current belief. They may remember or recall information selectively. Psychological theories vary in defining this memory bias. Some theories state that information confirming prior belief is stored in the memory while contradictory evidence is not. That is called schema theory. Then, some others claims that outstanding information is remembered best, and that is humor effect. Okay, so basically, this bias is involving your memory in recalling something to be proved. Memory confirmation bias also serves a role in stereotype maintenance. Experiments have shown that mental association between expectancy confirming information and the group label strongly affects recall and recognition memory. Though a certain stereotype about a social group might not be true for an individual, people tend to remember the stereotype consistent information better than this confirming evidence.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Okay, my name is Nonisrina. So I will continue to explain about the confirmation bias. How is term bias is formed? Okay, first it begins in the 1960, where the experimentation begins to reveal our tendency to confirm existing beliefs rather than questioning them or seeking a new ones. Other research has been revealed our single-minded need to enforce idea. However, in 1960, the psychologist Peter C. Watson published a series of experimentation titled On the Failure to Eliminate the Hypothesis in a Conceptual Task. So he observed that very few intelligent young adults spontaneously test their belief in a situation which does not appear to be a scientific nature. So being aware of philosophical works published by the Karl Popper from the previous year, Watson noted that rational people doesn't always show their willingness to attempt to falsify hypotheses. Instead, they try to confirm it. Hence, he coined the term confirmation bias. No matter what discovery made by the researchers, they basically stand on the same road, which is based on scientific method. In short, the confirmation bias also occurred in basic fundamental step in science, where at the second step, which is a formation of hypothesis. But how is it happening? Okay, first, when we are forming a hypothesis, what does it involve? Yes, human being. Humans are not escaping from getting influenced by theirs or other subjective opinions, personal belief, biases, prejudice, and even stereotypes. But in scientific methods, developing a hypothesis requires a scientist or researchers to set up a preconception about how to explain or give a reason to the related questions. Okay, let's take a look for this example. The question is, when rain is happening? So, to answer that question, we need to form a hypothesis, a preconception to that question. Let's say, hypothesis is when the weather is getting dark and windy, it is going to rain, proposed by scientist A. Another scientist B says, it is rain because God want to make it rain. So here is happened confirmation bias, as the scientist B is developing a hypothesis based on their religious belief instead of the variables. So what can we say? Scientists or researchers are also human. So their concept of scientist did not imply that he or she would cheat by making up experimental data or falsifying it. Rather, they did everything in their powers to defend their hypothesis against early or perhaps unwarranted death caused by the introduction of flawed data. Therefore, it is highly likely that a hypothesis get influenced by the scientist's biases. This will result in contradictory results leading to invalid data and findings. Instead, in a good scientific experiments, researchers should seek to falsify their hypotheses, not to confirm them. One of the methods in combating confirmation bias in scientific method is by implementing the falsification method proposed by the Karl Popper. In previous lesson, last week, we have learned that Karl Popper's method in falsifying the theories involving prediction that future observation might reveal to be false. So when theories are falsified by such observation, the scientists can either respond by revising the theory or hypothesis, or by rejecting the theory or the hypothesis. So same goes with the confirmation. So in confirmation bias, the scientists stand to protect their hypothesis. So, in other words, if we implement the falsification method, the scientists can prevent to falsify their results, to prevent the invalid hypothesis. Instead, they are trying to find the most valid hypothesis in any experimentation. In that way, any research that they produce is 100% valid and the most trusted research.
As a conclusion, confirmation is a really crucial thing so that we don't get confused and we don't hesitate anymore about the theory that are being researched for. Okay, so I think that's all from us. Thank you guys for your time today, and yeah, we hope you guys have fun with us, and see you in next week class. Bye bye guys.